This is the Wealthability for CPAs show. Better clients, better practice, better life. Here's Tom Wheelwright.
Welcome to the Wealthability show for CPAs, where we're always discovering how to build better clients, a better practice, and a better life. Hi, this is Tom Wheelwright, your host, founder, and CEO of the Wealthability Network. So this is an unprecedented time of change in the CPA world, particularly in the tax world, as we have AI, we have blockchain, we have all these things going on. We have disruption in the human resources space, where we have fewer and fewer CPAs coming in. So the question is, how do we actually design our business so that we can actually handle all these changes? And so today we're going to discover actually how to do that. And we have an expert in this area that I think is going to blow your mind, because Mike Goldsby, who wrote the book, Design-Centered Entrepreneurship, really has come up with a formula to do this, which I think is fantastic. As CPAs, we love formulas. And Mike, I'm very excited to have you on our show today. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Tom. It's great to be on your show and great to have a chance to speak to your audience.
So if you would, just give us a little of your background and, kind of how you got into this area.
Sure. So I'm an entrepreneurship professor, but at Ball State, I wear a lot of hats. So I have an institute for entrepreneurship. I have a professorship in entrepreneurship. I have a professorship in management. And really, that professorship in entrepreneurship and that professorship in management kind of go together, because I look at a lot of the key issues you're talking about in your show, where workplace, for one, the work environment that we work in, and then two, the effect of innovation, ideally driving innovation, but also responding to innovation. So those types of things actually end up impacting the design of the business. The definition of what that business is gets affected by those things.
All right. So I want to get right into it here, because I'm beyond curious about your thoughts on this, because I'm a big fan, Mike, of finding patterns, developing a formula, and then you implement a system, right? I mean, that's kind of the pattern that I followed for many, many years in my businesses. So you use a term called design philosophy. Let's start real basic there. What do you mean by that?
So design is not necessarily going with your first idea, but it's trying to craft the best possible solution you can to a problem. So with our approach that we talk about in our book, first you have to know what problem you're going after. And usually the problem that you think is a starting point isn't actually the real problem. So we believe that with some tools that we talk about, with like fact-finding questions that can help you redefine the problem. So we have a problem, as you talked about, with AI, that's a potential problem. So how do we redefine that or reframe it in a way that it becomes an opportunity? So that design principles do that. And then design helps you to figure out how to craft that solution that you come up with to make it the best possible thing to satisfy and ideally exceed the expectations of your customers.
All right. So let's take real life. Let's go, if you don't mind, let's just take real life situation here. I'm going to let you walk us through how to deal with this. Okay. So right now what's going on in this tax world is we've got computer systems that are getting more and more sophisticated that will effectively, I think, be able to do not just the tax return preparation work, but even a lot of the tax planning work. That's where AI comes in, right? So the blockchain, it's the blockchain that allows us to do the tax return preparation, but it's the AI that will allow computers to really do a lot with the actual tax strategy or tax planning. So, all right, so that is an obvious, wait a minute, we've been doing tax returns and some tax planning for years and years. In recent years, people have been talking about, especially myself, been talking about, let's do a tax advisory practice, but even that seems to be under assault. Okay, so let's start with what's the real problem? What kind of questions do you ask? How do you get to the root of this?
Yeah, so it sounds like what you're saying is the real problem is the AI will do tax preparation, and it will even do advisory aspects. So there's 6 questions or 5 real key questions that we like to use. One is, what's the problem? Tell me about it. You kind of told me about it. That's what we know. But is there anything, Tom, that you think we don't know about this problem that maybe we'd like to find out? What are things that maybe still need to be learned?
Well, I mean, for example, we don't know how customers will react to this, right? Customers seem to be okay with chatbots on a website, but are they really going to be okay with, their tax? They're going to trust it. So I think there's a trust question there. I think there's a question of how fast will it come, and then how comprehensive will it be? Will it be something that we do? We still do 20% of the work. If it does, then that's great, because we just have more clients and we do, be able to serve more people, which, since there are fewer and fewer CPAs coming into the profession, this actually works for us. So that's actually the opportunity there. But those would be some of the, the obvious unknowns to it.
Yeah. And so we have other questions. Like, one is, what's already been thought of or tried? Not a whole lot yet. It's brand new. What would you ideally like to get if we could solve it? And you kind of mentioned that, we'd like to have happy customers, and trust is still there. But this is a great question, one that we always find some interesting thoughts around, is, are you making any assumptions about this current problem you're thinking about that may or may not be true? What assumptions might you be making about this current AI situation that may or may not be true?
Well, one of course would be that AI can actually do this. I mean, that's an assumption we're making, is that it's very possible AI won't. I mean, that's a long ways away. We don't know if that's a year away. ChatGPT kind of caught us all off guard, because it was so good and we weren't expecting to be that good that early. And yet now what we're seeing is, okay, it's good, but it's not that good. Right. So you can still identify, yes, this article came from, I was talking to an editor yesterday, and he said, yeah, we can identify when it comes from ChatGPT, and we just turn those down. That's what we do. And, I'm sure professors have this issue. You have this issue in your business, where, our students submitting papers with ChatGPT, which I'm sure that would be a logical thing to do. Students want to do things as easily as possible. Right. So I think that's one of the assumptions, is that, yeah, it really can do it. But then another assumption is it's going to do it quickly. And is it going to do it quickly, or is it going to be, is it going to be 10, 20 years from now?
Right. And, I think one of the other things that comes up with the AI, especially ChatGPT, is this idea of, they call it hallucinating, right? Where it gives answers that sound believable, but yet they're not accurate. You have to double check the work, right?
Right.
And I would contend that maybe one of the assumptions, or something related to your issue there, is, fine, if the ChatGPT and these AIs can do a lot of things you're talking about with tax, I, as a person in the, a civilian out in the regular world that doesn't understand tax codes, would I know that that's actually the right answers, right? Would I actually trust those? And so I would contend that maybe one of the opportunities in all this is reframing it into, how might ChatGPT remove a lot of the hassles that CPAs deal with. And because every CPA firm and every financial advisor and consultant that I know gets to how clients would like a lot more advice, and they like to move to that. So maybe that helps empower the situation to take away hassles that you can then leverage into more advice. The second thing is, me as a civilian, I can interact a lot with the tech on my computer, but there's a certain game of keeping up with it. And I'd rather spend my time on what I'm good at and rely on experts. So how might your expertise play as even more of a asset and strength to customers with AI available than it ever has before? My best friend also does my taxes. The poor guy's gone through, he called it trigger finger. I'm sure a lot of your accountants out there know about trigger finger, because he said he clicks those darn mouses so much doing all that, just that repetitive use of clicking in all the numbers and doing all that. I mean, So I think there's probably opportunities if you can reframe it and be that source of even more trust. Think about it. That might even be a source of more trust in the accountant than ever before. If you're not relying on you, Tom, to do my taxes, and we're relying on this AI, then I want to know that even more so that it can be trusted than ever before.
Got it. Okay. So we've gone through some of these questions. That you walk through. What's the next step we're doing in coming up with this design philosophy?
So we framed it in how might we use, so we get to a reframing, worried about AI, how might we reframe AI to be an asset that helps us to do more of what our customers like and take away the hassles, daily hassles in the work for accountants, because we know work-life balance is a really big issue for accountants and financial advisors, the workload, so that you've got really satisfied customers. So then we go into possible solutions. We just diverge. And Tom, that's one thing that we talk a lot about is there's 3 key skills in innovation. It's diverge. You just throw out a lot of ideas without judging them, picking the best ideas and developing them further and trying to build on those. And then the ability to separate those. So to know that there's a time to diverge, there's a time to converge. So right now we're having this discussion. We've talked a little bit about maybe the problem. Now we can think about possible solutions. So I would just say, Tom, given what we've talked about, what might be ways to use AI as an asset to make customers happier and to make your life better for yourself as an accountant? What are some ideas?
Well, so for example, if I don't have to do tax returns and all I have to do is kind of verify the tax return, that frees up 80% of our time, right? Mm-hmm. Second of all, it reduces the number of people I have to have on staff. And then what it does is allows me to spend more time focused. And especially if I've got, on the planning standpoint, if I've got some ideas that are actually being generated by AI, then I can take those and I can build on those. And I'm going, okay, how do I connect those with the client situation in particular? And then I can spend really most of my time doing client work, doing advisory client work instead of doing things like reviewing tax returns.
That's beautiful. So, I would contend with you that even if AI can do a lot of things for me, this is my money. This is, a very important thing in my life that I work hard for, and I want to make sure it's done right. And I still want to look a person in the face and get a human, get all those cues and all those reassurances and that advice coming from the person, not the AI. We're, digital, we're just bombarded by digital images all the time. It's hard to even know what to look at, but to look at you, in the eyes and to get your input and expertise, and then to be fed the latest and greatest information that's out there via the AI. I would think this would be a tremendous tool. And then, as you said, cutting some cost, your bottom line might get better, and your bottom line might get better while not needing to generate as much revenue. Maybe you can back off a little bit of your workload. That might be nice.
Okay. I like all those. All right. So, okay. We're still designing this, right? So
we're designing it.
We figured out this is not all bad. We figured out that it may not be as bad as we think it is, and that there may be opportunities here. And we kind of figured out what the opportunities are. Okay. Then what?
So now we want to get some interaction with the customer, and you may have some ideas, and maybe there's some clients that you have developed a really good relationship with, and you say, look, I'm working on some new ideas here, and you might just even take a handful to provide some free services to test how it works and get their feedback. So we would call that user interaction. So you're coming up with some possible new approaches. You say, look, I just want to test these out, and if they work, I'm thinking about maybe adapting this more, seeing what they like about it, what they don't like, what you learn from those interactions. Take the next iteration, and then when you think you've got something, and they're and you can go back to them. Is this better? Am I closer to this? What we're talking about? And when you get them going, yeah, this is great. This is better than anything I've ever had before. Tom, you've been great in the past, but you're even better now. It's like, all right, now it's time to scale it, and that's when you start trying to figure out how to build that into your business. And, there might even be a transition period, there might be a period of time where, it may not happen overnight. You may gradually move
Oh.
into that. So
I think it's definitely going to be a transition period, because I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to discover what the AI tools are. They're going to have to be built. I mean, we've got, ChatGPT really fundamentally is pretty simple. I mean, we actually see it when we do an email in Outlook, because when we get a response, it says, here's 3 possible responses, right? You can choose one. That's the same thing. It's the same thing ChatGPT does, right? It's just what's the logical next word. And what we do know is that AI right now doesn't do math very well. And so, we've got some time on how is that going to come along and who's going to develop it. Is it, the big companies that do like tax return software, are they going to develop it? Or is it going to be somebody, a completely new entrant into the marketplace? And so I do think there's going to be a lot of transition here, and it's going to be hard to cope with transition. So this is one of my questions for you is, how do you design it in such a way that you can handle that transition? Because this is not a 6-month transition. This is a 5 to 10 year transition.
Yeah. So this is just like you're in a sense, you're sort of reinventing the business. And what that means is when you're starting a new business, if you're being entrepreneurial and starting a new business, you got to get out there and get the facts on the ground. And so I would be attending workshops, whether online or in person, to see how to use the AI. I was at a PhD reunion last week in Virginia, and we had sessions on how to use AI and how to use it in research, how to use it in the classroom, how to use it with bureaucratic administrative work. I'm a Virginia Tech graduate. It's an engineering school, and computer science. And they said, look, this is here. You're not going to be able to prevent it. So how do you adapt to it and use it as a tool? And I know in our work, I've talked to a lot of professors and we write research, but the ideas still come from us. We still are the ones that by the time you have edited and reworked it and added things in, it looks a lot different than the AI suggestions, but the AI helps. It speeds up the process. So, one of the things that, one possible variant for you might be, price could even go down for some of your services because the workload goes down on a lot of those tasky things that take up a lot of time. So maybe price goes down on that, but you're still charging for certain services. But maybe you've got more clients with less time, right? I mean, that's the definition of productivity. Productivity, the definition is getting more out of the resources you have. That's productivity. And theoretically, AI is a technology, just like Google Scholar did for me as a scholar, without having to go to the library and go through 800 journals. Google Scholar does it for me. I can do things that tasky work that used to take me a week in a couple of hours. That was before AI, right? So it's a tool. It should increase productivity. Therefore, how do you use that to get the bottom line better, to get more out with that tool, and also use it to satisfy your customers? And again, I would say that the design aspect, you're going to go out there and learn, attend workshops, talk to people. You're getting my ideas. You talk to more people, get the expert ideas, go to the workshops, be a student of it, and then start cobbling some things together and say, can I just test this with you? You're a friend. I'm thinking about going in this direction. I want to serve you better. I'd like to use this to help you serve you better. Am I doing that with this or not?
Got it. So testing, just like you would in marketing, you're doing A/B testing in marketing. Let's do some, maybe even some A/B testing with different uses of the technology. That makes sense.
That's exactly what it is. And it's interesting, right? Because you're in a field of certification and expertise, and I am too, as a professor, PhD. We talk about, well, we get replaced by AI, but what we know from the COVID situation was students really missed out a lot on not being on campus. I find online is really good for older students who are self-motivated, but people 18 to 22 usually need that in-person experience to be motivated and to feel engaged. And so you're in a field too where we rely on people with expertise and certifications, but if this AI technically can do CPA type of work, that's a threat, obviously. But then again, how does it become a tool? And that becomes the question. How does that become a tool to better the customer experience and your job as a CPA? And just like I would say, for me, I mean, I could buy all those things at Best Buy, those programs, all the different tax programs. But I go to my accountant every time. And when I had an issue with the IRS 5 years ago with an audit, he was on the phone with me every time I needed him. He was on the phone getting me through that audit. And at the end of it, I only had a $125 charge for a penalty on a $25 miscalculation because I was in a what do they call it, a calculation audit, where they were recalibrating their IRS codes, and I got the lottery pick, they said, and they went through all my records. But my CPA was the one that kept me sane. So an AI would not have done that for me. It was James, my friend James, my CPA, saying, we're going to get you through this. And as he said, those numbers are solid. You've got nothing to worry about. We'll get through this. That's what I needed. That's what I was paying for.
So there is a lot of there's a lot of assurance that and trust that the clients get from having a human. So you see that there's always at least for the foreseeable future, going to be a trust issue with AI. I mean, we still don't, we don't trust the media anymore, even. So, because it could be AI generated, right? The media could be AI generated. It could be, could be somebody in Russia generating that, or China, or someplace else. So I think that's a really good point. So is there so what kind of patterns do you see when it comes to successful business launches? Because, if you're talking about design, you're identifying patterns. So is there anything that you historically have seen over your research in what makes a successful design and what makes somebody successful in launching that? Like, we're going to be relaunching our business.
Yeah, it's actually something I'm working on right now. I'm doing a lot of research on, because I identified it as that key trait that I've noticed about who makes it and who doesn't. And it's people who are willing to revise their path. So, it's fascinating because, like, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, that belief in what you're doing and that passion and that confidence is the thing that moves you forward. But it's also a thing that can also lead to you overlooking really important information. So, I got to believe there's trade conferences that you can get some good feedback on what's going on, best practices that people are using. But also, as you're doing this, you're going to make mistakes, and being open to that feedback and making those adjustments gradually as you go. I mean, you make some big changes now and then, but it's just constant refinement, and really, really being willing to be, coachable. To be coachable. I mean, because that's the paradox. If you weren't driven and confident and believing in your gut, you probably wouldn't be an entrepreneur. But also, because of that, you might overlook some really important information that could be an Achilles heel that could, totally ruin the whole enterprise. So being willing to revise, being willing to get feedback. So here's 2 questions I'll leave you with on that idea that I've always given people. I think it's key. When you're working on these new ideas, Tom, you ask 2 questions. Is what I'm thinking about doing here reasonable? Is this reasonable? So people who you trust, that you think might have some knowledge that could give you really good feedback, is it reasonable? And then the second question is there anything here I'm missing? So what am I missing in this idea that maybe I need to think about more? Those 2 questions will give you that information you need to revise. At the end of the day, it's still your business. You make the call. But what we're trying to get to here over and over and over again throughout this whole process is that you're making an informed decision. Now, so innovators oftentimes, they oftentimes do different that people aren't comfortable with, or they do things. And, Steve Jobs was always disrupting, the way people were used to things. That's what innovators do. But Steve Jobs also did talk to people. He took walks with people. He went and found the best people in those areas to say, can we take a walk? I'm sure he asked those types of questions. Is this reasonable, and what am I missing? And then when he thought he had all his homework done, and he thought he had something that would really thrill the customer, because he knew his customers really well. He knew what those customers would like and what they wouldn't like. Then that was his job. He said, my job is to deliver something great for them. But on that path there, the thing that was often missed that people don't know about is he had a lot of conversations before he pulled the trigger. And so you're making that informed decision over and over and over again based on the next thing.
I love it. I love it. So the book is Design-Centered Entrepreneurship. It's basically entrepreneurship. I would say entrepreneurship on purpose, with a purpose and on purpose, and with actually doing the hard work ahead of time, not just guessing, but actually doing the hard work. Is it reasonable? What am I missing? And then testing, right? Testing it out before we actually launch that. And I think we forget, because we've been doing our business for me, it's been over 40 years. So you may have been doing this business, and all of a sudden, all of the assumptions change, right? So everything about what you're thinking about is, all those synapses that you've got hardened in your brain, all of a sudden, wait a minute, this is not the way necessarily it's going to work. So asking those questions, I think this is phenomenal. Any final words for our listeners?
Yeah. So look at business, the business world out there as you're going into all this. It's a game, right? You're going into a game. The rules of the game have changed. What game are you in now? And what's it going to take for somebody to win in that game? So you had the 40-year game. It was a good game. You got a lot of good rewards out of that game, but now you're in a new game, and you got to figure out what the game is.
I love it. I love it. And when we do that, see, this is the thing, when we're really purposeful about what we're doing, and we recognize that we're in a new game, that we ask these questions: is it reasonable? What am I missing? And then we test it. What is going to happen is we're going to always end up with better clients, a better practice, and a better life. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Mike.
You've been listening to the Wealthability for CPAs show. Better clients, better practice, better life. To learn more, go to wealthability.com.